Within the thick stone walls of the monastery, life moves slowly, guided not by hunger or desire, but by the rhythm of prayer. Yet hidden behind the cloisters and the echo of chants lies another heart of the community, the kitchen. It is here, in quiet spaces filled with the smell of smoke and boiling herbs, that monks find the strength to endure their days of labor and devotion. The kitchen is dim. Its only light the flames of the hearth and the small oil lamps set into alcoves. Shadows stretch across the walls, making the great pots and heavy tables look even larger than they are. The air is cool, heavy with stone dampness, yet warmed by the steady fire. Unlike the bustling kitchens of noble halls, here there is no chatter, no laughter, no shouting of orders, only silence, broken by the scrape of ladles and the occasional clatter of iron on stone. A young monk enters, a torch in hand. His sandals scuff softly against the flagstones as he makes his way to the center of the room. He lifts the torch high, illuminating shelves lined with clay jars, sacks of grain, baskets of herbs. The smoke curls upward, meeting the low beams. This is the first moment of tension. His torchlight reveals not plenty, but scarcity. Some jars are nearly empty, their rims crusted with salt or grain dust. The sacks sag inward, their weight already halved. He pauses, breath caught in his throat, then sets the torch into its bracket. The kitchen continues in silence, carrying the burden of its emptiness. At the hearth, pot bubbles softly. It has been simmering since yesterday, a mixture of beans, greens and scraps, the flavors deepening as hours pass. The broth is thin, but it carries the memory of nourishment. A monk stirs it with slow patience, his hand steady, his face calm.
The second moment of tension flickers when he lifts the ladle and sees how shallow the level has become.
He glances toward the doorway, where others will soon arrive with bowls, and his lips press into a thin line. With deliberate calm, he pours in water from a clay jug, thinning what remains, stretching it for another day.
The sound of water meeting broth is almost inaudible, but to him, it is a prayer in itself, that even the smallest meal might sustain many.
The kitchen itself is a rhythm of restraint. Wooden knives clack softly on boards, herbs are tied into bundles with rough twine, bread dough is kneaded slowly and silently. Yet all of it moves in time with the life of the monastery. Suddenly, from the chapel beyond the walls, a bell tolls. Its sound rolls through the air, deep and commanding. The third moment bursts here at once, every hand in the kitchen freezes. The ladle halts mid-stir, knives rest upon boards, footsteps stop in place. No one speaks. The bell is not simply a sound, it is the command of time itself. The monks bow their heads, murmuring prayers. Only when the final echo fades do their hands return to their work, as if nothing had interrupted them. This is the life of the monastery kitchen. Not abundance, not chaos, but quiet endurance. The food prepared here is plain and sparse, yet it is given rhythm by faith and discipline. Each act of cooking is a ritual, each bite of food an offering, each silence filled with meaning. As you sit in the corner, watching the flames dance on the stone, you feel a calmness settle upon you. The young monk's torch, the pot of broth, the tolling of the bell, all of it weaves together into a tapestry of stillness. This kitchen does not strive to dazzle or to delight. Its purpose is simpler, and in that simplicity lies its power. When you close your eyes, you can still hear the faint bubbling of the pot, the scrape of the ladle, the deep echo of the bell. These sounds become a lullaby, carrying you into rest.
The stone walls hold their secrets, the quiet kitchen holds its rhythm, and you drift gently into sleep, comforted by the knowledge that even the smallest food, prepared in silence, can feed the body and steady the soul.
The monastery wakes long before the sun lifts over the horizon. In the stillness of night, while the world outside lies buried under mist and frost, the kitchen already breathes with life. Bread must be prepared, for without it, no monk can endure the long hours of labor and prayer that stretch across the day. The baker enters the stone kitchen, his sandals whispering on the flagstones. He lights a small lamp, its glow revealing the flour sacks, the clay jars, the wooden trough used for kneading. The air smells faintly of smoke and sourdough starter, a scent that lingers from years of baking in this very place. He rolls back his sleeves, dips his hands into the flour, and begins the day's quiet work. The flour is coarse, mixed with bran and chaff. White bread, the food of lords, is never seen here. Instead, the monks eat loaves that are heavy, dark, and filling. The baker pours water into the trough, then sprinkles and a pinch of salt. Hands move slowly, folding, pressing, turning. The dough resists, sticky and rough beneath his palms. Sweat beads on his brow, though the room is still cold.
This is the first moment of tension. He knows the flour is running low, so he adds more bran than usual.
The dough darkens, growing bitter, but without it, there will not be enough to feed all. His face remains calm, but inside, he prays the bread will still nourish. Around him, the kitchen grows warmer as the fire in the oven is stoked. Logs crackle, sparks fly upward, the flames licking at the blackened stones. The baker shapes the dough into rough loaves, their surfaces uneven, their weight heavy. He slides them onto a wooden peel, ready to be pushed into the oven's mouth. But the oven is hungry too. Its heat is fierce, the floor uneven. As he pushes one loaf inside, the peel tips slightly. The second moment strikes, the loaf slips, falling into the glowing coals. For an instant, the monk freezes, watching as ash clings to the dough, smoke curling upward. Then, without hesitation, he reaches in with iron tongs, pulling the loaf free. He brushes it quickly, wiping away the worst of the soot. It will not be wasted. No bread ever is. The scarred loaf will be sliced thin and shared like all the others. Time passes slowly as the loaves bake. The smell fills the kitchen, earthy, nutty, tinged with smoke. It drifts into the cloister, where monks passing to morning prayers breathe it in with faint smiles. The scent is a comfort, a reminder that after prayer, sustenance will wait. When the baker pulls the loaves from the oven, their crusts are hard, some edges blackened. One loaf is especially dark, its side burned crisp where the fire licked too high. This is the third moment. The burnt bread fills the room with a sharp, bitter smell. The younger monks wrinkle their noses, but the baker remains steady. He knows from years past that even charred crust can be softened in broth, even bitterness can be swallowed when the belly is empty. He sets the loaf aside, marking it with a cross, a quiet blessing before it is served. The loaves are lined on the wooden table, steam rising from their cracked tops. The monks gather in silence after morning prayers, each receiving a slice. The bread is thick, heavy in the hand, rough against the tongue. Yet it is warm, and warmth is enough. Some dip their crusts into ale, others soften them in the morning pottage. The silence is broken only by the sound of chewing, the scrape of knives, the occasional sigh of contentment. For a moment, the room glows with peace. The monks eat slowly, their heads bowed, their thoughts already turning toward the hours of labor ahead. The bread may be bitter, the crust burnt, the loaves small, but it is bread nonetheless. It binds them together, giving strength to carry on. Later, when the meal ends, the remaining loaves are carried to the storage room, wrapped in cloth, placed carefully on shelves. The burnt one, too, is saved, waiting for the pot where it will soften and become useful again. Nothing is wasted, not even mistakes. As you sit back, watching the monks clear the table in silence, you feel the rhythm of the kitchen settle into your heart. It is not abundance that feeds them, but routine, patience, and faith. The bread of dawn is not sweet, not soft, not plentiful, but it is steady, and in its steadiness lies comfort. When you close your eyes, the smell of baking still lingers, the image of loaves steaming in the cool air resting in your mind. You think of the bran added in quiet desperation, the loaf rescued from fire, the crust burnt yet still blessed. These moments replay like echoes, weaving into the story of survival. And as sleep drifts near, you dream of bread, not of feasts or fine white loaves, but of heavy brown bread, warm in the hands, carrying the quiet strength of monks who rise at dawn to bake it. Every monastery had its bread, and alongside it, always, the pottage pot. Unlike bread, which came fresh each dawn, the stew was never truly finished. It hung above the fire day after day, bubbling slowly, receiving scraps of root, handfuls of grain, leaves of herbs, and sometimes, if fortune smiled, bits of fish or meat. The pot was the monastery's heartbeat, always warm, always waiting, always the same and yet never the same. The pot itself was vast, iron blackened by years of smoke, its rim coated with layers of broth long absorbed into the metal. The fire beneath it never fully died. It was fed even at night, glowing embers keeping the stew alive until dawn. When a monk entered the kitchen in the quiet before prayers, the first thing he did was stir the pottage. The ladle moved in circles, slow and careful, mixing together flavors of days past with what had been added just hours before. This morning, the broth is thin, nearly translucent. A few beans float on the surface, softened until their skins split. The monk frowns, lifting the ladle higher. Level is low, far too low for the mouths it must feed. He glances around the kitchen, ensuring no eyes are on him, then reaches for a clay jug of water. This is the first moment of tension. He pours quietly, stretching the stew, knowing it will taste weaker but last longer. The sound of water meeting broth is soft, almost like a sigh.
He stirs again, his movement steady, his lips whispering a prayer that none will notice, or if they do, that they will understand.
As the morning light brightens, other monks enter. They carry small offerings, a handful of peas, a few turnip ends, scraps of yesterday's bread hardened into stone. These are added to the pot with reverence, for each addition means another spoonful saved from hunger. One novice, eager but clumsy, drops a small pouch too quickly. The cloth tears, and a scattering of dried beans splashes into the boiling stew. The second moment crackles here. Everyone turns as beans hiss against the broth, some floating, others sinking deep. For a heartbeat, silence hangs heavy. Then, one by one, the monks smile faintly, relieved at the accident. The beans are precious, but at least they are not lost. The novice blushes, bowing his head, and the elder pats his shoulder kindly. Mistakes, too, can become gifts. The pot continues to bubble, filling the kitchen with its humble aroma. It is not the smell of feasts, not the richness of meat or the sweetness of pies, but it is comfort all the same. The monks line up with their bowls, each waiting in silence as the ladle dips and pours.
The portions are small, each bowl more broth than solid, yet each monk bows his head before tasting, giving thanks for what has been given.
As the bowls empty, one monk stirs the pot again, ensuring nothing sticks to the bottom. His ladle scrapes something firm, a root, gnarled and unfamiliar. A piece of foraged food, perhaps slipped in by a villager, perhaps pulled from the monastery's own stores without proper sorting. He lifts it halfway out of the broth, frowning. This is the third moment. The monks glance at one another, uncertain if it is safe. To waste food is unthinkable, but to eat poison is deadly. After a pause, the elder nods once. The root is cut in half, boiled longer, its bitterness leaching into the stew. No one speaks of it again. At the meal, each monk swallows in silence, the taste sharper than usual, but no complaints rise. Hunger accepts what caution fears. When the meal ends, the pot is not emptied. The monks leave behind dregs, scraps, thin liquid, all of which will become the base for tomorrow's meal. The pot is wiped along the rim, but never scoured clean. To wash it would be to lose the flavors gathered over days. Instead, it is allowed to carry the memory of every meal forward, each new addition blending with the old. As you sit in the kitchen corner, watching the steam rise and swirl into the rafters, you feel the strange comfort of continuity. The pottage is not a feast, not even a true meal by itself, but it never ends. It is the thread that carries the monastery from one day to the next. Each monk takes from it, each monk adds to it, and in this way, the stew becomes a shared story. Later, as night falls, the fire is stoked again, embers glowing red beneath the pot. The broth sighs softly in the dark, alive even while the monks sleep.
You lie down on your straw bed, the taste of the thin stew still on your tongue, and think of the 3 moments: the water poured in silence, the beans spilled like treasure, the bitter root swallowed without complaint.
You close your eyes, soothed by the rhythm of the ladle, the sound of bubbling, the warmth of shared hunger. The endless pottage pot remains behind in the kitchen, eternal, patient, waiting. And with that thought, you drift gently into dreams, your rest flavored with the quiet endurance of the monastery's humble stew. In the monastery's rhythm of quiet labor and prayer, beans and lentils stand as steadfast companions. They are not rich foods, not feasts, but they fill the bowl when nothing else remains. To the monks, these humble seeds are more than nourishment, they are patience dried into small forms, waiting to be softened by water and time. The sacks of beans rest in the corner of the kitchen, rough cloth tied with twine. Their smell is earthy, their weight a comfort to those who know how precious they are. Yet each handful must be measured carefully, for a single sack must stretch across weeks of cold. One morning, an elder monk kneels before the sack, his hands weathered, his breath misting in the chill. He empties the cord, dips both hands inside, and lifts a small portion. The beans rattle softly, like stones against one another. He lets them fall slowly into a wooden bowl, gauging the amount by sight, not scale.
This is the first moment of tension. He hesitates, wondering if he should add more.
His heart wants to, but his mind warns that the sack is already too light. With a sigh, he presses the cord tight again, sealing away what remains. The portion will have to suffice. Later, as the pot simmers, another monk tends to the storeroom. The shadows are long in the narrow chamber, the air cool and still. He stoops to lift a sack, but his fingers brush a hole gnawed into the fabric. A scattering of beans lies on the floor, tiny teeth marks sharp in the cloth. The second moment comes here. Rats have found their way in, stealing what the monks cannot spare. He gathers the spilled beans with desperate care, blowing dust away, returning them to the pot. Stones are wedged into cracks, traps are set, but in his heart, he knows some portion has been lost forever. When the meal is finally served, bowls are filled with beans boiled until soft, their skins splitting, their broth thick and plain. The monks gather in the refectory, seated in long rows beneath the vaulted ceiling. No one speaks, only the sound of spoons against wooden bowls, the faint murmur of grace whispered before each bite. The third moment lingers here. The silence of the hall is so deep that the act of chewing itself feels loud. Yet no one breaks it, for meals are not times for conversation, but for reflection. Beans are eaten slowly, each mouthful steadying, each swallow binding them closer in discipline. Though plain, the beans give strength. They are the muscle behind the monks' long hours in the fields, the patience behind their copying of manuscripts, the quiet energy behind their chants. When eaten with bread, they form the simple balance of protein and grain that sustains life. Sometimes, the monotony is broken. A handful of lentils, red or green, is added to the pot, their color brightening the broth. On feast days, onions or herbs might join them, making the meal richer. Yet, even without these gifts, the monks give thanks. To them, each bean is a reminder of providence, small, humble, but enough. At night, the sacks are checked once more. The elder monk runs his hand along the cloth, feeling the diminishing weight.
He whispers a prayer that the stores will last until spring, that no more rats will come, that no hand will take too much. He ties the knot tightly, then sets his palm upon it, as though blessing it with his touch.
You, sitting quietly at the edge of the refectory, watch how the monks eat. They lift their spoons slowly, their eyes lowered, their posture straight. The silence is not heavy, but peaceful, broken only by the steady rhythm of eating. In this discipline, you sense the heart of their life, restraint, patience, gratitude for even the smallest portion. Later, when the bowls are empty and stacked neatly, the monks rise as one and file out in silence. The hall grows still, save for the echo of footsteps fading into the cloister. The kitchen remains warm with the scent of beans, the pot simmering gently, carrying its flavor forward to the next day. As you lie down to rest, the image of the sack remains in your mind, the elder's hesitant handful, the gnawed hole from the rats, the silent hall where beans were eaten like prayer. These moments, small yet vivid, are the story of survival written in seeds. You close your eyes, hearing the faint rattle of beans in a wooden bowl, the soft bubbling of the pot, the hush of the refectory. These sounds lull you, steady and calm, carrying you into sleep. In your dreams, you see endless fields of beans and lentils, stretching far, promising that hunger can always be met with patience. For the monks of the Middle Ages, fasting days came often. More than half the calendar year forbade meat, and so fish became the quiet substitute, both permitted and practical. Rivers, ponds, and monastic fish ponds were as vital as barns and cellars, for in their depths swam the only richness many monks would know. On a cold, grey morning, the sky low and heavy with mist, a small group of monks makes its way to the pond outside the monastery walls. Their sandals crunch softly on frozen earth, their habits drawn close against the chill. One carries a net, patched again and again with coarse twine. Another carries a small wooden bucket, its handle worn smooth. The pond lies still, its surface glinting faintly beneath a thin sheet of ice. The elder signals, and the younger monk steps forward to break the ice at the edge with a staff. The sound echoes sharply in the quiet morning. He leans too far. the bank slick with frost.
The first moment of tension unfolds, his foot slips, his body lurches forward, arms flailing above the dark water.
For a heartbeat it seems he will tumble in, but he steadies himself with the staff, breath ragged, cheeks flushed with fear. The others glance at him with calm eyes, neither scolding nor laughing, only grateful he did not fall. The work continues. The net is cast with careful rhythm, its ropes hissing through the air, spreading across the water's surface before sinking below. The monks stand in silence, watching the ripples spread, waiting for movement. Minutes pass. The net is drawn slowly, heavy with promise. For a moment, hope stirs, silver flashes glint within. But as it rises, the twine splits, a ragged tear opening wide. The second moment cuts, sharply, fish slip through, thrashing free, vanishing back into the dark. Only one remains caught, its body small, its gills flaring desperately. Monks say nothing, only bow their heads briefly, as if acknowledging both loss and gift. They return to the kitchen with the single fish, placing it gently on the wooden table as though it were an offering. Its scales shimmer faintly in the dim light, its eyes glassy but bright. The cook cleans it with quiet skill, his knife moving smoothly, his hands steady. The flesh is laid into the pot, the bones set aside for broth. A faint aroma begins to rise, mingling with the scent of herbs and onions. When the meal is served in the refectory, the fish has been stretched as far as possible. The broth carries its flavor, the few pieces of meat divided into slivers so thin they seem almost transparent. The third moment weighs in silence. One fish must feed dozens. Each monk receives only a shred, a taste more than a meal. Yet each bows his head in gratitude, lifting the morsel with reverence, chewing slowly, letting the salt and smoke linger on the tongue. The hall is filled not with voices, but with quiet chewing, the scrape of spoons against bowls, the steady rhythm of eating. Broth warms bellies, the memory of fish strengthens spirits. No one complains. To accept what is given with patience is itself a form of prayer. When the bowls are emptied, the bones are not thrown away. They are boiled again, their flavor drawn into tomorrow's pottage, their essence stretched beyond their flesh. Nothing is wasted. In this way, the single fish becomes many meals, its gift extended through time. Outside, the pond lies still again, ripples fading, its secret life hidden beneath the surface. The monks will return tomorrow and the day after, casting nets, repairing holes, hoping again. Some days the catch will be richer, others as meager as today. But always, the rhythm continues, tied not only to hunger, but to devotion. As you rest by the hearth that evening, you think of the day, the slip on the icy bank, the torn net, the one fish divided among many. These images linger like echoes, weaving into the story of endurance. Hunger sharpens, loss humbles, but gratitude softens both. You close your eyes, the faint taste of fish broth still on your tongue, the memory of scales flashing in dim light still in your mind. The sound of rippling water drifts into your dreams, carrying you gently into sleep. And in that sleep, you see ponds shimmering beneath starlight, nets cast wide, and fish rising like blessings from the dark. Beneath the monastery's stone walls, hidden behind heavy doors and steps worn smooth by centuries of sandals, lies the cheese cellar. It is cool even in summer, and in winter it feels like a cavern of breathless silence. Here, wheels of cheese rest upon wooden shelves, their rinds hardened, their scents pungent and earthy. To the monks, these wheels are not luxuries, but guardians of survival, food that can wait patiently for months, even years, until the moment it is needed. The air is sharp with the mingling of salt, milk, and stone.
When a monk enters, carrying a lamp, the light falls across row upon row of rounds, some pale, some dark, all bearing the marks of time. The shelves creak softly under their weight, and the sound of dripping water echoes faintly in the distance. On this day, an elder inspects the wheels, tapping each rind with his knuckle, listening to the hollow note. His eyes are sharp, trained by decades of tending this cellar. He pauses at one wheel, its rind spotted with mold. Green veins creep across its surface, deeper than the usual bloom that can be scraped away. It is the first moment of tension. Should it be cut and discarded, or trusted as edible? To lose it would mean losing a portion of sustenance. To keep it might mean sickness. The elder frowns, running his fingers across the cracks,
before ordering it to be set aside for further judgment. The cellar holds its breath, waiting for the decision that could mean feast or waste. Elsewhere in the cellar, a novice monk carries a wheel too large for his arms. His steps wobble on the uneven stones, his breath quick with effort. The lamp trembles in his other hand. Suddenly, his sandal catches on a ridge. The second moment strikes. He stumbles, the wheel slipping from his grasp. It thuds onto the floor, splitting at the edge, a pale crumble scattering like dust. The boy freezes, face pale, heart pounding. Around him, the monks hurry forward, lifting the broken wheel with care. Half of it can still be saved, cut and eaten before it spoils. Yet the loss is heavy, a reminder of how fragile even preserved food can be when handled without caution.
Later, as the community gathers in the refectory, a rare gift is brought forth, a wedge of cheese, its surface brushed clean, its interior pale gold. It is set upon the table with quiet reverence, as though it were a relic. The elder cuts it into slices so thin they curl at the edges, transparent against the light. This is the third moment. Each monk receives only a sliver, yet the room hums with gratitude. They eat in silence, savoring the tang, letting it linger on their tongues as long as possible. The flavor is sharp, rich, so different from the plain beans and bread that usually fill their days. For a moment, the meal feels abundant. The cellar, though sparse, holds not only food but memory. Each wheel of cheese tells a story, of the cow milked at dawn, of the curds pressed by strong hands, of the salt rubbed carefully into the rind. To eat a slice is to taste not just nourishment, but the patient labor of months past. The monks know this, and it deepens their gratitude. When the meal ends, the remnants are wrapped carefully in cloth, returned to the cellar, placed among the other wheels in their cool, dark vigil. The novice lingers at the doorway, still ashamed of the wheel he dropped, but the elder rests a hand on his shoulder, murmuring that mistakes, too, can teach reverence.
That night, the cellar grows silent again, its rows of wheels sleeping in shadow. The air hums faintly with their scent, a mixture of earth and time. You picture them there, waiting patiently, enduring longer than hunger, promising comfort when the need is greatest. As you lie down to rest, the images linger, the spotted rind debated over, the wheel broken in clumsy hands, the paper, thin slices laid like treasure before each monk. These moments shape themselves into a lullaby of endurance, of patience, of gratitude. You close your eyes, and the cool air of the cellar seems to wrap around you. In your dreams, wheels of cheese stretch into endless rows, glowing faintly in lamplight, their silence steady, their presence comforting. Hunger fades, and sleep takes you gently, fed not by plenty, but by quiet preservation. If bread and beans filled the belly, it was herbs that gave life its subtle color in the monastery. In the kitchen gardens and cloisters, green leaves pushed upward even when little else grew. Monks gathered them with care, parsley, sage, thyme, fennel, and mint, using them not only to flavor food but to heal bodies and soothe spirits. Their fragrance softened the plainness of pottage, their tinctures treated fevers, and their presence tied the monastery to both body and soul. Behind the kitchen lay the herb garden, walled with stone, where raised beds lined the paths. Even in winter, hardy plants clung to the soil, their leaves curled and dark, their stems woody but alive. The garden was a quiet place, filled not with voices, but with the hum of bees in summer, the sigh of wind in winter. Here, monks bent low with baskets, gathering sprigs with patience, never taking more than the plants could bear. On one morning, a young novice stoops over a bed of herbs, his fingers brushing green leaves still damp with dew.
He plucks quickly, eager to impress his elder, but his eyes are not yet trained to see the subtle differences.
Among the parsley he gathers lies a sprig of something else, its veins darker, its edges sharper.
This is the first moment of tension. The elder notices at once, his voice firm but calm as he takes the sprig away.
It is not food but poison. A careless hand might have brought danger to the pot. The novice bows his head, cheeks flushed, and learns that every leaf carries weight. Back in the kitchen, the air is thick with the smell of boiling roots. A monk carries a jar of honey infused with herbs lavender, thyme, and mint, steeped for weeks until the sweetness holds their fragrance. He sets it upon the table, but the stone floor is uneven, and his sleeve catches the edge. The second moment bursts as the jar topples, shattering on the flagstone. Golden honey spreads in a slow pool, clinging to shards of pottery, its scent flooding the room. The monks rush to salvage what they can, scooping the sticky sweetness with spoons, licking it from their fingers like children. Much is lost, but even loss carries flavor, and the air hums with its perfume long after the honey is gone. At mealtime, the pottage is ladled into bowls, its steam rising in pale curls. A handful of herbs has been added, mint, parsley, a trace of fennel. The taste is sharper, brighter, cutting through the heaviness of beans and turnips. As the monks lift their spoons, they pause, inhaling. The third moment glimmers here, one pinch of herbs transforms the meal, and for a moment the refectory feels lighter, almost festive. No voices rise, for silence is still kept, but the faint curve of lips shows gratitude. Herbs were more than food. In the infirmary, bundles hung from the rafters, drying slowly, their scents mingling into a strange harmony. Chamomile for sleep, sage for sore throats, mint for fevers, rosemary for aching joints. The healer monks brewed teas, crushed leaves, made poultices. Their hands smelled always of earth and resin, their robes stained with green. To eat a bowl of herb, maced broth was to taste both medicine and meal. Evenings in the cloister garden were calm, the sun setting behind stone walls, casting long shadows across the beds. The air cooled, carrying the fragrance of crushed thyme beneath sandals. A novice might pause, brushing his fingers along the leaves, letting the scent cling to his skin. The elder would remind him gently, these plants are gifts, not trinkets, to be tended and respected. When the day ended and the kitchen grew quiet, the shelves still held bundles of herbs tied in string, their leaves crisping in the dry air. Some would be ground into powders, stored in jars. Others would be dropped into pots, their sharpness softening plain meals. Their presence was constant, like a whisper in the background, unnoticed until it was gone. You sit by the hearth, the taste of mint and parsley still lingering on your tongue, the memory of honey spilled across stone filling your mind. You think of the novice's careless hand, the jar shattered into golden ruin, the sudden brightness of herbs in broth. These moments weave themselves into a story of patience, caution, and quiet transformation. Closing your eyes, you feel as though the garden breathes around you, its fragrance rising in your dreams. Leaves glisten with dew, bees hum in the distance, and bundles of herbs sway gently in lamplight.
Hunger fades, replaced by the calm knowledge that even the smallest sprig can bring healing, and even the simplest herb can turn silence into comfort.
The refectory is the heart of the monastery, but not in the way a feasting hall would be for lords or peasants. Here, the hall is vast, its stone walls plain, its wooden tables long and bare. Light filters in through narrow windows, casting thin shafts upon benches worn smooth by generations of monks. At mealtimes, the air hums not with chatter, but with silence, so deep and steady that it feels like another kind of prayer. The monks file in quietly, their sandals soft against the stone. Each carries a wooden bowl and spoon, heads bowed, hands steady. They sit shoulder to shoulder along the benches, yet the stillness between them feels like a wide river. Meals are not times for conversation, but for contemplation, and every motion, lifting a spoon, breaking bread, chewing slowly, is wrapped in reverence. The pottage pot has given its portion, ladled out with care. Bread, dark and heavy, sits beside each bowl. A wedge of cheese is rare, a shred of fish rarer still, but even the simplest fare is received with bowed heads and whispered grace. The hall fills with the scent of broth and smoke, yet no voices rise above it. A novice, new to this rhythm, lowers his spoon too quickly. It slips from his hand, striking the stone floor with a loud clang. This is the first moment of tension. The sharp sound shatters the silence like glass. Dozens of heads lift, eyes turning toward him. His face burns crimson, his breath caught in his throat. For a moment, the hall is taut with the weight of broken order. Then the elder clears his throat softly, a signal to resume. The rhythm returns, though the novice chews with trembling hands. The silence is not empty. It is filled with the scrape of spoons against bowls, the crunch of crust breaking, the faint sighs of steam rising from hot broth. In that quiet, every sound is magnified, every gesture meaningful. The monks' eyes rest not on each other, but on their food, on the floor, or upon the crucifix hanging above the hall. The meal itself becomes an act of devotion. Yet silence is fragile. Across the table, another young monk suppresses a smile. Perhaps the fallen spoon lingers in his mind, or perhaps hunger makes him restless. His lips twitch. A sound almost escapes. Then, with a sudden breath, a laugh slips free, soft, but audible. The second moment flickers, the hall stiffens, eyes turn, the elder's gaze sharp. The novice lowers his head at once, shame burning across his cheeks. The silence swallows the sound quickly, but its echo lingers, a reminder that even joy must bow before discipline here. The meal continues. Each bite is slow, each swallow deliberate. Bread crusts are dipped into broth, beans chewed until soft, herbs tasted with gratitude. Hunger gnaws, but it is restrained, held within the quiet order of the hall. The meal is not about pleasure, but about sustenance, about remembering that the body serves the soul. When the bowl's empty and the last crumbs are gathered, a bell tolls softly in the corner. All hands still, all heads bow. Monk rises, his voice clear and low, reciting a prayer of thanks. This is the third moment. The silence gives way not to chatter, but to scripture. The words rise and fall like waves, filling the hall with a sound deeper than any conversation. When he finishes, a hush falls again, even thicker than before, as though the very air is wrapped in reverence. The monks stand as one, lifting their bowls, filing out with the same quiet steps that brought them in. The hall empties, leaving only the faint smell of broth, the echo of footsteps, the memory of silence. The refectory waits now, still and solemn, until the next meal draws them back. You sit at the edge, watching it all unfold. The fallen spoon, the stifled laugh, the solemn prayer, they play again in your mind. These are not dramas of feasting, but dramas of silence, small ripples in a sea of calm. And yet, in their quietness, they speak more loudly than any banquet could. When you lie down that night, you carry the hush of the refectory with you. You hear the scrape of spoons, the clang of a spoon upon stone, the echo of prayer filling a vaulted hall. These sounds become a lullaby, steady and calm, carrying you gently into sleep. In your dreams, the hall stretches endlessly, its silence vast and comforting, its meals eternal. The calendar of the monastery does not flow with seasons alone. It flows with feast days, holy celebrations marked not only by prayer, but by food. Most days are plain, marked by beans, bread, and silence. But on feast days, the rhythm shifts.
The air hums with anticipation, the kitchen stirs with a different energy, and the tables hold small gifts that feel as grand as king's banquets.
On the morning of a feast day, the bell tolls brighter, its sound ringing with joy rather than solemnity. The monks rise with lighter steps, their prayers humming with hidden smiles. In the kitchen, the cooks work early, bringing out stores long hidden, dried fish wrapped in cloth, a jar of honey carefully sealed, a basket of fruit kept for this very day. These treasures transform the meal, not into excess, but into something rare, a reminder of abundance that lies beyond the ordinary. As the food is laid out, the refectory seems changed. Bowls of pottage are richer, flavored with herbs and a touch of oil. Bread is fresh from the oven, its crust still steaming. And there, at the center of the table, lies something extraordinary, strips of dried fish, glistening faintly with salt, and small cakes sweetened with honey.
This is the first moment of tension. The monks glance at the table with widened eyes, their hands hovering, their discipline tested by the presence of food so rare.
Yet they wait, patient, until grace is spoken. Only then do they reach forward, each motion slow, controlled, reverent. At one end of the hall, a novice monk lifts something from his bowl and gasps softly. Among the bread and beans lies a single apple, its skin wrinkled from months of storage but still red, still sweet. He holds it high, his face alight, whispering a prayer of thanks.
This is the second moment. The sight of fruit in winter is so rare that his joy spreads silently, warming the others.
The apple is sliced, passed along the bench, each monk receiving only a sliver, yet each savoring it as though it were a gift from heaven itself. The feast grows not in volume, for silence is still kept, but in spirit. Each bite of honey cake, each shred of dried fish, each taste of fruit carries more than flavor, it carries memory. The monks recall harvests past, the warmth of summer, the sweetness of orchards. For a moment, their hunger is not only fed, but lifted. Outside, the bells toll again, faster, louder, their notes rolling across the fields. This is the third moment, so insistent and jubilant that the monks' silence cannot contain their joy. Voices rise, softly at first, then stronger, chanting hymns that echo in the stone hall. The refectory fills not with chatter, but with song, a chorus that carries both gratitude and hope. The walls seem to tremble with it, the air bright with harmony. When the meal ends, the monks do not leave quickly. They sit a little longer, savoring not only the food, but the joy of having shared it. The bowls are emptier than usual, the gifts all consumed, but hearts are lighter. The memory of honey on the tongue, the salt of fish, the sweetness of apple all linger, turning an ordinary day into something holy. The kitchen is quieter now, its treasures gone, but the monks know that feast days come and go, always rare, always precious. They do not crave them constantly, for the joy lies in their scarcity. To taste honey once in many months is to remember it forever. To share an apple among dozens is to bind the community tighter than any sermon could. As night falls, the echoes of the bells still seem to ring in your ears. You think of the dried fish shining on the table, the novice holding the apple aloft, the hymn bursting from silence. These moments weave into your memory like golden threads, lifting the long cloth of winter with brightness. You close your eyes, the taste of sweetness lingering faintly on your tongue. The refectory fades into dream, but the joy remains, carrying you gently into sleep. In that sleep, you walk among orchards heavy with fruit, fields alive with song, tables spread with gifts both small and infinite. In the monastery, ale was not a luxury, nor a drink for merriment alone. It was safer than water drawn from streams, and it carried strength enough to steady weary hands. Brewed thin, mild, and humble, it was the daily companion to bread and beans. Its froth was light, its taste earthy, and though it could not intoxicate easily, it warmed the body and soothed the spirit. The brewing took place in a stone chamber apart from the kitchen, where barrels stood in neat rows and the air smelled of yeast and grain. The monks moved quietly among the vats, their robes brushing against the damp floor, their hands steady as they stirred mash and poured water. One morning, an elder lifts the lid from a barrel, dipping a ladle to taste the ale. He sips, then closes his eyes, his brow furrowing. The flavor is sharp, sourer than it should be. Fermentation has gone too far, the balance lost. This is the first moment of tension, should they discard it, wasting precious effort, or drink it anyway. The elder sets his jaw, lifts the ladle again, and drinks deeply. Around him, the monks follow suit. The ale is not pleasant, but it is still nourishment. Waste has no place within these walls. Later that day, a young brewer tends the fermenting vat. He stirs with care, watching the foam rise. But the liquid bubbles higher than expected, froth swelling suddenly and spilling over the rim. This is the second moment. The foam rushes down the side, pooling on the stone floor. The novice panics, rushing to catch it with wooden cups, scooping what he can back into the barrel. His hands and robe are soaked, the air sticky with the smell of grain and yeast. Laughter is forbidden in the solemn work, but a few smiles flicker at the sight. What is lost cannot be regained, yet the effort to save it speaks of devotion. When the ale is finally ready, it is carried into the refectory in clay pitchers. The monks pour it into wooden cups, the liquid pale and faintly cloudy, its taste soft and mild. They drink slowly, savoring its steadiness rather than its flavor. Across the hall, one novice cannot restrain his eagerness. He gulps his portion quickly, then steals another when no one looks. Soon his cheeks flush, his eyes bright, his posture sways faintly. This is the third moment, the elder notices, his gaze stern. The boy bows his head, ashamed, his cup taken from him. The lesson is clear. Even in small indulgence, discipline must hold. Despite such moments, ale remains central to the monastery's life. It is served at dawn with bread, at noon with beans, at dusk with soup. It quenches thirst, fills silence, and carries with it the labor of those who brewed it. The monks know its value not in delight, but in constancy. In the brew chamber, the barrels rest again, sealed and waiting. The air is cool, the stones damp, the smell rich and earthy. By lamplight, the monks check the lids, tap the staves, ensure the brew continues in patience. They know each barrel is both fragile and enduring, a gift that must be tended daily, like prayer. As the day ends, the refectory glows with candles, cups resting empty on the tables. Monks rise in silence, their thirst eased, their bodies warmed. No one speaks of sour ale or spilled froth or flushed cheeks. These are only passing ripples in a larger river. What remains is steadiness, the quiet knowledge that tomorrow, too, ale will wait. You sit at the edge of the hall, remembering the elder's steady sip of sour ale, the novice scrambling to save froth, the boy's flushed face under stone eyes. These moments linger, weaving themselves into the story of discipline and endurance. When you lie down, the taste of ale still lingers faintly, earthy, thin, a little sour. It is not sweetness, not delight, but it steadies you. You drift into sleep with the image of barrels lined in the dark, their contents patient, their silence deep, and in your dreams, ale flows clear and endless, carrying you like a river through the quiet halls of the monastery. Winter is the true test of the monastery. In summer, gardens yield herbs and vegetables, orchards give fruit, and the cows fill their pails with milk. In autumn, the harvest fills storerooms with sacks of beans and grains, barrels of ale, wheels of cheese. But in winter, when the snow settles heavy upon the cloister roof and the fields lie silent beneath ice, the abundance drains away. Every bite must be measured, every portion stretched. Inside the kitchen, the air feels colder than the fire can warm. The sacks in the storeroom sag thin, their cords loose. Clay jars echo hollow when tapped. Barrels of ale grow lighter, and wheels of cheese shrink slice by slice. Monks, who live by discipline, know that hunger is another form of prayer. Yet even discipline cannot silence the stomach's growl. One morning, an elder monk kneels by the grain chest. The lid creaks as he lifts it, the smell of dust rising with the air. He dips his hand deep into the sack, fingers brushing rough kernels, but his palm closes on so little that it hardly covers the bottom of his hand. He lets the grains fall back, listening to them patter like rain. This is the first moment of tension. The hollow sound of the jar echoes across the storeroom, sharper than any bell. It is the sound of scarcity, a reminder that what remains may not last. The elder bows his head, whispering a prayer not for fullness, but for endurance. At mealtime, the monks gather in the refectory. Bowls are set before them, bread cut into thin slices, soup stretched thin with water. Silence fills the hall as they bow their heads. Each monk accepts what is given, but hunger sharpens their senses. A novice, younger and less disciplined, glances beneath the table, searching with desperate eyes. His hand brushes the rushes on the floor, feeling for crumbs that may have fallen from earlier meals.
The second moment pierces here. He finds a tiny piece of hardened crust, small as a pebble, and lifts it to his lips with trembling hands.
The elder across from him notices, but does not scold. Instead, he closes his eyes, praying that the boy's hunger may be eased. The bread that day is darker than ever, stretched with chaff, coarse and bitter. A single loaf must serve the whole table. The abbot himself takes the knife, his hand steady though his eyes are weary. He presses the blade through the loaf, cutting slowly, evenly. Slice by slice, he divides it, thinner and thinner, until it seems impossible to go further. Yet he does not falter. This is the third moment, the abbot's duty to be just, to give equally, even when equal means so little. He lays the slices upon wooden plates, each monk receiving only a sliver. No one protests. They bow their heads and eat in silence, chewing slowly, savoring even the bitterness as though it were sweet. The hall hums with quiet chewing, spoons scraping gently at bowls of watery broth. Steam rises faintly, but it cannot hide the truth. The portions are meager, the monks still hungry. Yet, no voice rises in complaint. Hunger is accepted as part of the rhythm, a discipline of the body as much as of the soul. In the evenings, the monks move more slowly. Their faces grow thinner, their cheeks hollow. Still, they chant the psalms, their voices steady though softer than in summer. Work in the gardens and scriptorium continues, though fatigue weighs heavy. They know that the days are shorter, the nights longer, and the weeks until spring many. Sometimes a gift arrives. A villager leaves a sack of beans at the gate, or a traveler offers dried fish in exchange for shelter. These gifts are received with bowed heads and blessings, divided carefully so all may share. But such moments are rare. Most nights end with empty bowls stacked neatly, the monks retiring to their straw pallets with stomachs still aching. The abbot, alone in his chamber, writes in the record book. His quill scratches slowly across parchment, the measure of grain left, the count of wheels of cheese, the tally of fish in the pond. Each number grows smaller, each line, quiet testimony to scarcity. He sets down his quill, folds his hands, and prays not for miracles, but for patience. You sit at the edge of the refectory, watching all unfold. Hollow jar, the boy's crumb, the abbot's knife, these moments replay in your mind like solemn bells. They are small scenes, yet they tell the story of survival more than feasts ever could. They speak of restraint, of endurance, of gratitude, even in emptiness. When the monks rise after the meal, they file out in silence. The hall grows still, the smell of broth fading, the crumbs swept away. The candles burn low, their wax dripping slowly, their light fragile but steady. You remain seated, listening to the echo of footsteps fade into the cloister. The air feels colder now, the hunger sharper. Yet beneath it all lies something firmer than despair, faith. Later, as you lie down on your straw bed, the images linger.
You hear the hollow sound of grain falling in an empty jar, see the boy lifting a crumb to his lips, watch the abbot's blade slicing thinner and thinner.
These moments become a lullaby of scarcity, strange and solemn, yet steadying. You close your eyes, and in your dreams, the grain jar is full again. Bread loaves stand tall and golden, bowls brim with steaming broth. Yet even in the dream, you remember the lesson of winter, that hunger endured with patience becomes strength, and scarcity borne with silence becomes prayer. The monastery was not only a refuge for its monks, it was also a beacon for the weary who passed along the frozen roads. Pilgrims, peasants, merchants, even beggars.
In harsh winters, when villages closed their doors against the cold, the monastery's duty remained to welcome strangers, to give them warmth, and to share what little food could be spared.
Hospitality was not abundance, but faith made tangible, offered even when the cupboard stood nearly bare. Snow fell heavily on one such evening, blanketing the cloisters, muffling every sound. Within the kitchen, the monks stirred their thin pottage, bowls already laid for the community. Then came a knock, slow, hesitant, muffled by the snow.
The porter opened the gate to find a man hunched against the wind, his cloak torn, his hands trembling with frost.
His lips moved, but his voice was little more than a whisper: food, warmth, a place to rest.
This is the first moment of tension. The brothers exchange quiet glances, knowing their stores are thin, yet also knowing no one may be turned away.
The abbot nods once. A bowl is filled and placed into the man's hands, steam rising into the night air. He eats with shaking fingers, tears mingling with the broth. In that small act, hunger is forgotten, replaced by the warmth of mercy. Inside, the monks sit to their own meal. The bowls are smaller than usual, portions stretched further to account for what was given. Yet no one complains. They eat in silence, the stranger seated among them, his presence a reminder that need does not stop at the cloister wall. Later that week, a novice finds himself watching another visitor, a woman and her child, both thin, both weary. They are given a place near the kitchen fire, where the warmth is strongest. The monks divide bread, but it is not enough. The novice looks at his portion, then at the child's hollow cheeks.
This is the second moment. He slides his piece of bread quietly into the child's hands, bowing his head so none may see.
But the elder across from him does see. Instead of rebuke, the elder offers his own crust to the novice, a silent chain of sacrifice stretching around the table. The meal continues in silence, but hearts are full. There are times, however, when the storeroom is nearly empty and still a traveler arrives. On such a night, the snow howls around the monastery, rattling shutters, extinguishing torches. The kitchen is bare, save for embers in the hearth. Yet when the porter admits a stranger, soaked and frozen, the brothers do not falter. This is the third moment. They place a pot upon the fire, filling it with hot water alone, stirring as though it were broth. Herbs are added, the scent filling the air, giving comfort even when substance is lacking. The man drinks deeply, warmed by steam, by heat, by presence. Hunger is not banished, but his spirit is steadied.
The tradition of hospitality stretches back through centuries, written into the rule of Saint Benedict itself: let all guests be received as Christ. To the monks, each stranger is more than a passerby.
Each is a chance to practice mercy, to embody faith. Even when resources are thin, generosity flows, not in abundance but in steadfastness. The monastery's guest hall is simple: straw mattresses on wooden frames, blankets patched many times, a small fire burning low. Yet to the weary, it is more precious than gold. Travelers sleep deeply, the sound of chanting in distant halls lulling them, the smell of smoke and herbs seeping into their dreams. In the morning, they are given bread and broth, a blessing for their journey onward. Within the cloister, the monks return to their routine, prayer, labor, silence. But the presence of guests lingers. The novice who gave away his bread carries the memory with him, learning that faith is more than words. The elder who tapped the grain chest now listens for more than hollowness. He listens for opportunity to share.
Even the abbot, who measures every portion with careful hand, reminds himself that what is lost to generosity is never truly lost.
You sit by the fire, watching it all unfold. You see the frostbitten man clutching his steaming bowl, the child smiling faintly as bread passes into her hands, the traveler soothed by nothing more than hot water and herbs. These moments replay in your mind like soft bells. They're not grand miracles, not feasts or riches, but they are enough to change the air itself. As night deepens, the cloister falls silent again. Snow piles against the doors, the wind sighs through the rafters. Yet inside, the warmth remains, not only in the fire, but in the hearts of those who chose to share. When you lie down on your straw bed, the images stay with you. You hear the knock at the gate, the whispered request for food, the sound of bread slipping quietly from one hand to another. You feel the warmth of steam rising from a simple pot of water. These moments weave into your rest like a lullaby of kindness. You close your eyes, and in your dreams the monastery doors open endlessly, strangers entering with weary steps, bowls offered, hands warmed. The snow falls outside, but within there is always a place at the fire, always a welcome, always enough to share. In the monastery, the kitchen was never only a place for bread and beans. It was also a quiet infirmary, a storehouse of remedies, a chamber where food and medicine blurred into one. To the monks, nourishment and healing were bound together, for the body could not serve the spirit if it weakened. Herbs, oils, honey, and warm milk passed as easily into bowls as into poultices, each remedy simple yet powerful in its own way. The infirmary stood close to the kitchen, so the smells of broth and herbs mingled in its halls. Bundles of dried leaves hung from rafters, sage for throats, chamomile for sleep, mint for fevers. Clay jars filled with oils lined the shelves, their surfaces cool and waxy in the lamplight. A wooden mortar and pestle sat on the table, its surface stained green from countless grindings. One winter's morning, a monk bent over the mortar, crushing leaves with slow, circular strokes. The scent rose sharp and pungent, filling the chamber. A novice stood beside him, eager but inexperienced. He reached for a bundle of leaves without pausing to check. The stems snapped, the leaves fell into the mortar. The pestle ground them quickly into powder. But the elder sniffed the air and stiffened. This is the first moment of tension. These were not the mild herbs intended, but leaves too strong, too bitter. He halted the grinding, lifted the powder to his nose, and shook his head. The novice's cheeks flamed. The mixture was cast aside, wasted, a reminder that even medicine must be chosen with reverence. In the next room, a sick brother lay upon his pallet, his breath shallow, his face pale. His body was weakened by fasting and winter cold. The healer brought him a cup, warm milk stirred with honey, scented faintly with cinnamon from the stores. He lifted the man gently, pressing the cup to his lips. This is the second moment. The patient coughed, nearly spilling the drink, the liquid trembling dangerously close to the straw mattress. The healer steadied him, wiping his chin, coaxing him to sip again. Slowly, the man drank, the sweetness coating his throat, the warmth spreading into his chest. His eyes softened, his breathing eased. For a moment, the cold shadow lifted. Back in the kitchen, other remedies were stored in jars, infused oils, tinctures, salves. One jar held peppermint steeped in oil, its fragrance sharp and bright. A monk reached for it, but his sleeve brushed the shelf too hard. The jar tipped, struck the stone floor, and shattered. This is the third moment. The scent of peppermint burst into the air, flooding the room, clinging to every breath. The monks froze, coughing, their eyes watering from the strength. Quickly, they gathered rags to mop the spill, their hands slick with oil. The floor glistened, the air thick with mint. The remedy was lost, but its memory lingered in every corner of the room. Despite such losses, The work continued. Broths rich with herbs were carried to the infirmary, not as meals, but as cures. Sage boiled into tea soothed sore throats. Garlic crushed into pottage was believed to fight sickness. Honey mixed with vinegar cleared coughs. These remedies were not always certain, but they gave comfort. And in times of weakness, comfort was as vital as healing. The monks treated not only their own but also travelers who came weak and ill. A pilgrim might arrive with blistered feet. The monks bathed them in warm water scented with rosemary. A peasant woman might come coughing. She was given honey wine to ease her lungs. A child fevered was laid upon a straw mattress, cooled with cloths dipped in chamomile tea. Each act was simple, but each was carried with care, rooted in the belief that hospitality extended also to the body's needs. The kitchen grew fragrant with these mixtures. At times, the smell of beans boiling was joined by sage's sharpness, mint's freshness, chamomile's sweetness. The scents wove together, drifting through corridors, blending food and medicine until they became inseparable. To eat here was to heal was also to be nourished. In the evenings, the healer, monks sat by the fire, grinding herbs slowly, whispering prayers as their hands worked. They believed each plant carried not only earthly properties, but also divine ones, gifts placed by God in the soil. To treat illness was not only a skill, but a devotion. You sit quietly, watching them tend their work. You see the novice's mistake with the bitter herbs, the frail monk sipping warm honey milk, the peppermint jar shattering into fragrance. These moments replay in your mind, weaving together into a tale of patience, caution, and mercy. When you lie down to rest, the scent lingers still, inch sharp in your nose, honey sweet on your tongue, herbs drifting through your memory. You close your eyes, lulled by the thought of kitchens that heal as much as they feed. In your dreams, bundles of herbs sway gently in lamplight, mortars grind steadily, and warm cups are lifted into waiting hands. Hunger fades, pain softens, and sleep arrives like medicine itself. In the monastery, bells were more than sound. They were the very heartbeat of daily life. They told the monks when to rise, when to pray, when to labor, and when to eat. The rhythm of bells wove the hours together like threads in a tapestry, binding the community into one steady flow. Even the meals, simple and silent as they were, lived and moved by the toll of bells. The kitchen hummed with quiet activity. Monks chopped roots, kneaded dough, ladled soup. Steam rose from the hearth, mingling with the faint scent of herbs. Their hands worked in silence, their minds attuned not to hunger, but to the steady passage of time. And then, suddenly, sound rolled across the cloister. The bell tolled, deep and solemn, its voice filling the air. This is the first moment of tension. Every hand froze. Knives halted mid-slice, ladles stilled in pots, footsteps stopped. The bell was not a suggestion, but a command, and to ignore it would be unthinkable. Slowly, each monk lowered his tools, bowed his head, and whispered a prayer before returning to the rhythm. Later, the refectory filled with rows of monks seated at the long wooden tables. Bowls of pottage and crusts of bread lay before them. They began to eat, spoons rising and falling in perfect silence, the hall filled only with the soft scrape of wood against wood. Yet the bell tower stirred again, its voice sharp and insistent. This is the second moment. The meal was interrupted, every monk lowering his spoon at once. I tugged at them, the smell of broth heavy in the air, yet discipline demanded obedience. They rose in unison, filing quietly into the chapel for prayer. The bowls remained on the tables, steam curling into the cold air. Only after the chant was finished did they return, resuming their meal as though no pause had occurred. The day moved on, each labor marked by bells, work in the gardens, study in the scriptorium, the tending of animals all framed by that voice of iron. And at last, as night fell and candles flickered in the windows, the final bell tolled. Its notes were softer, slower, carrying a weight of closure. In the kitchen, monks were still wiping tables, scraping pots, sweeping ashes. This is the third moment. The instant the bell rang, all activity ceased. Brooms leaned against walls, rags dropped, hands folded. No word was spoken. Only silence and bowed heads answered the bell. Afterward, they moved together to finish the work, but now with a quietness that felt like the day's last exhale. The bells ordered more than time, they ordered the spirit. They taught the monks that meals were not for indulgence, but for gratitude. That hunger was not a master, but a teacher. That silence itself could be a form of worship. Every toll reminded them that life was not theirs alone to command, it belonged to a rhythm greater than themselves. As you sit near the cloister wall, you hear the echo of those bells through stone and air. You remember the knives freezing mid-slice, the bowls left steaming on the tables, the broom dropped in the hush of evening. These sounds, sharp, abrupt, insistent, become part of your own heartbeat, steadying you. When night deepens and you lie upon your straw bed, the bells still echo faintly in your mind. You hear them tolling through dream and memory, marking hours even in your sleep. They call you not to action, but to peace. You drift gently into rest, lulled by the rhythm of bells, your dreams filled with cloisters where time flows like music, each note shaping the silence, each silence shaping the soul. After the meals were eaten and the monks themselves passed into memory, the quiet foods of the monastery lived on. They endured not only in kitchens, but in manuscripts, in stories told by elders, and in the imagination of those who wondered what it was like to live on bread, beans, and faith. The legacy of monastic food is not measured in recipes alone, but in discipline, in humility, and in the quiet strength that still whispers through history. In the scriptorium, where monks copied sacred texts, they sometimes left small notes in the margins, observations of weather, mentions of harvests, even recipes. A single parchment might hold both a psalm and a description of broth, a hymn and a measurement of herbs. One such manuscript, worn and fragile, describes how to prepare a simple stew of beans and onions flavored with sage.
This is the first moment of tension. The ink has faded, the words nearly lost, and the scribe's faint handwriting breaks off
Mid-sentence. Was he called to prayer? Did hunger distract his hand? You trace the faded lines with your eyes, realizing that this fragment is all that remains of meals that once fed hundreds. In the cloister garden, an elder monk sits with a group of novices. His beard is white, his back bent, his voice soft but steady. He tells them of a long-ago feast, when a rare gift of honey and cheese transformed their simple table. His eyes brighten as he recalls the sweetness, the laughter, the hymns that followed. This is the second moment. The novices lean forward, eyes wide, imagining flavors they have never known. The elder pauses, his voice trembling, as though tasting the memory once more. For a moment, silence falls. Then the boys smile faintly, carrying the story like a seed to be planted in their own remembrance. Elsewhere, a young novice lingers in the refectory after the others have gone. He sits at the empty table, tracing his finger along the wood worn smooth by centuries of meals.
His imagination carries him backward. He sees rows of monks eating in silence. He smells bread fresh from the oven. He hears the scrape of spoons. This is the third moment, his eyes close, and though his bowl is empty, he feels as though he too is sharing in the meals of ages past.
The legacy of food is not only in the taste, but in the memory it awakens.
The monastery's foods bread dark with bran, beans boiled into pottage, fish divided into thin slices, herbs used as both seasoning and cure, seem plain to modern eyes.
Yet they carried more than sustenance. They carried patience, discipline, and an understanding that meals were not for indulgence but for endurance. To eat was to pray. To share was to believe. To go hungry with silence was to learn humility. Generations later, when scholars read those faded manuscripts, when travelers record tales of monastic meals, they preserve not just recipes but values.
The legacy is not only that monks ate beans or baked bread, but that they transformed scarcity into rhythm, silence into devotion, and food into something greater than itself.
You sit quietly, holding these images close. You see the scribe's faded words, the elder's trembling smile, the novice's quiet imagining. These are small moments, yet they bind centuries together. They show how food can be memory, how memory can be prayer, and how prayer can survive long after the last crumb is gone. As night settles, the monastery grows silent once more. The kitchen is dark, the refectory still, the bells at rest. Yet in your mind, the meals continue, bread shared at dawn, beans simmering endlessly, herbs perfuming the air, fish stretched thin but given freely. You close your eyes with the legacy of these foods woven into your heart. As you drift into sleep, you dream not of feasts, but of quiet tables, of simple bowls, of monks eating in silence. Their meals, their discipline, their faith live on, not only in history, but in you.